Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Marketing Series. We have a special treat for you today. If you have not already downloaded the marketing checklist off of our website, you might want to start with that because today we are going to go through the ultimate marketing checklist and everything you need to know about that. Tony, are you ready?
Yeah, no, this is fun because honestly, these are actionable items that we can all take. Some of them are easy and free, right? And then other ones are obviously you have to pay for. But I think we need to start someplace, and this is going to be a great tool for everyone to start using. So let's get right into it.
Is your website optimized for conversion, visitor to caller? Let's touch on some of those questions, which is, do you have a phone number at the top right corner of every page?
So many sites you go on and you can't find how to communicate with them or contact, right? They're on the bottom. And you don't want to make it hard for people to reach out to you. So by having it on the right-hand side, all it does is people read from right to left, and naturally the eye is going to go here, and there it is. Bingo, call. The other thing that happens is because most websites are responsive, when the responsiveness takes over, the number usually will end up below your logo. So again, it's right there. So if someone goes on your website, they click on it, and off it goes. So again, if you don't have your number on the top right-hand side, get it there. Usually it's pretty easy to set that up.
Mm-hmm. Are you using authentic images, videos, photos of the owner, your work, your team on your website?
I mean, listen, people want to connect with people, right? So I know you do, like, right from the social media, right? You do a lot of that with helping, clients and things like that out. It's a connection, right? So if they see my mug or your mug, right, they're going to be more likely to say, I'm like, oh, actually, it's a real person, right? So, people can tell when they're models and things like that, right? So anytime you can use it, whether it's social media or especially your website, you definitely want to try to incorporate that.
Do you have a compelling call to action after every block of text?
By having a call to action, it's like, yeah, I want you to contact us if you have a question, or download this free our pricing guide, whatever happens to be, right? So super important, right? Because again, here you are, get someone to your site and you're not asking them to do something. Hey, give me your information because I'm going to give you this in return, right? So yeah, and make sure you have a ton of them, right? It's one of those things where just don't have one up here, and then because again, people are going to scroll down, and if they don't see it again, they might not scroll back up again, right? So
yeah, you can never have too many call to action buttons. Are you giving customers the option to engage via chat, two-way text? You're talking about a whole new generation. They want to text you, they want a web chat. So not having that, you are missing out on leads.
What do we know about people? Like, what do we know about us, right? We are impatient. We want answers 5 minutes ago, right? So, a web chat is nice because again, there's the opportunity for them to go on there and actually put their information and ask a question. And, some websites work where it's actually live, or, what we like to use is the website where that captures and texts, we'll send the information to your phone, and that way you could text directly that person back, so it's like immediate and you can have a conversation like right away. Make sure you have that on there as well. So,
and if you're not sure where to start, set up a demo call because we have a system we'd be happy to show you as well, where you can do all of that.
And it's fairly inexpensive, in the because of them. I mean, it pays for the whole year, and then on top of that's gravy, right? So we're not talking about some of these things being super expensive, but it is a necessity for business. Yeah. As far as being mobile friendly, right? 70% of people are using their phones right now for looking on websites. So if they don't look right on the website, they're going to bounce. They're going to go someplace else, right? And same thing with the speed of the site, right? If they're slow, or if they get there, the images take forever to kind of load, they bounce and they go find someone else that they get the information quicker.
So how did you all rank yourself on topic number 1, which is your website optimized for conversion?
Yeah. And you know what the cool thing about this section was? It's all things that are pretty simple to do, right? I would say, other than maybe the loads, the speed and stuff like that, right? That's a little more complicated, right? But most of those things that you can do that. And you know what? If you do those things, you're probably further ahead than most.
All right, section number 2. Let's do it. Is your website optimized for search engine rankings?
The magic of SEO, search engine optimization. Excuse me. A lot of these things are like long term. Like SEO, I always say, is a long term game. It's what you work for, because again, you don't want to keep paying for ads right? Or spend as much money on ads. So what you do is the long term is you get your SEO right, right? Short term, you're doing ads because you need to make money, right? So it's they complement each other while the other one's kind of catching up, right? So we usually say, hey, hang in there, give it 6 months to a year, use your advertising to kind of start to kind of get there, right? But that's why SEO is so important, because again, at the end of the day, you don't want to keep spending all this money, to drive traffic to your site. What is number one, Nicole? Talk to me about it.
Do you have your main keyword in the title tag on every page of your website? So for example, wedding photographer and your company name. So dive into that a little bit more for us, Tony, and dissect what that means.
Because what Google uses, right, is search terms, right? So for instance, we'll use the wedding photographer as an example. If I'm looking for a wedding photographer in Connecticut, okay, if you don't have that keyword someplace on the site, especially your title is obviously one of the most important, because that you're telling Google that this is a title on my page, right? And then if the URL aligns with the title, and now your images, right, which I'm sure we'll get there, align with that, it's just a signal to Google that, hey, you must be a wedding photographer or wedding DJ or plumber in Connecticut, or a plumber in Ansonia, whatever the situation may be. So, what most people do is they just kind of leave it blank because they didn't realize they needed to do that, right? So the good news is, like, a lot of newer platforms do have some kind of basic SEO tools kind of available. But again, just make sure you kind of put that information in there. And there's a lot of places that you can learn this stuff from and things like that. But it's tedious, and it takes time. But trust me, if you ever want to rank and get free traffic, you got to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which brings us to our next question, which is, do you have pages for each of your core services? Which for the wedding industry, I feel like, if you're a photographer, for example, you do probably family photos, wedding photos, all of these different services. So making sure you have a page for all of those services. Why is that important?
So when you go on Google and you search, let's just say I'm not looking for a wedding photographer. If you don't have that, you do baby photos or engagement shoots. If you don't have a page specifically for that, how does Google know that exists, right? You can't dump everything on one page. So by isolating these things out, right? And if I'm a plumber, toilet repair in Connecticut, for instance, that's a common keyword that somebody might search for on Google. And if you have a page that kind of matches up that, and the content and all the images and things like that kind of match up, then hey, there's a higher chance that you might come up for that keyword.
Which brings us to the next question, which is, do you have pages for each of the sub-cities that you service?
Got it. So especially like in the service industry, right? Like where, again, what you try to do is you try to hit your major cities in your state.
Awesome. Do you have pages for the brands that you service?
Same thing with the city. Like if you have different brand names you go by, you want to obviously, again, give it its own world, right? You can, again, depending on your industry, sometimes just one simple landing page is good, depending on your service, right? Because hey, yeah, these guys do it, and off you go. But if you're trying to rank, organically, and trying to, come up more often versus like your competitor, these are all the things that you have to have in order to be able to do that.
Do you have unique content on every page of your website?
Yes.
Not having duplicate content over and over and over again.
Yeah. Again, we're trying to keep this simple, right? But Google will penalize you if you reuse, the same content, right? Copy and paste. Google loves content because, again, that's what they use or in their databases when people are searching. So again, if you're going to have multiple services or multiple cities or, brands and things like that, make sure it's unique.
Next question is, does your website come up for the most important keywords? And now we're talking about keywords here.
Yeah. Again, it has everything to do with that, right? So like if you are a wedding photographer, you got to make sure that when someone types in wedding photography near me or whatever happens to be, you come up. Okay. So, but if you don't have those keywords in the title and the content and your headers and your images, the chances of that happening just lessen.
Which makes sense, because most of the time when I'm searching, I'm typing in whatever I'm searching for: plumber near me, photographer near me, and Google knows, okay, you're in this area, right? So if that is not on your website, if that is not there as the keyword, you're probably not going to show up. And there are tools too that can help you see what keywords are primarily on your website also.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's also tools like if you use Google Analytics and things like that, right, where you could track what keywords are actually driving traffic and to what pages.
Absolutely. And the last question in this section is, are you consistently creating new content, blogging, and creating new inbound links back to your website?
Where blogging comes in, Google loves blogs because it's fresh new content. Okay. What it does is every time, you write a blog about a service or, anything like that. Okay. It gives Google another keyword, right? You write blogs around your keywords, by the way, right? Something more that Google can index in their in their database that potentially someone could search for. All right. What happens is when you do that is people sometimes like the article because again, in the articles you're not trying to sell anything, you're just trying to give them information. They'll start to link to that article because they feel like, wow, that's a really good article. Let me share that with my friends. What happens then is you start to get more and more people linked to your site. Well, Google says, oh, wow, this site, there's an authority ranking, okay, believe it or not, that Google sit there and say, wow, because so many good quality sites are pointing to this information, it actually makes you more important. It actually kind of raises you up. So if you have more ranking than your competitor, you actually come up higher in what's kind of going on because Google deems you as a better source of information. So, what we usually recommend is like, hey, if you can, write a blog a week, right? Maybe only do one a month, right? Start someplace. Start sharing it all over these places. These things kind of lead to more traffic back to your site. Google's happy because, hey, there's more links coming in. Your authority goes up. You start coming up more in your searches and you start getting a lot more free traffic and your business starts to grow, right?
Yeah. And with blogs, one of the things I think people in the wedding industry can do is because you're doing all these different events is have a blog article for each event, especially if you're a photographer, videographer, you have these images and content. You can write a little something, post a blog with a video or a photo, and then share that. And the potential for your couples to then share that to their pages and your reach extends further from that too.
Even like if you're an auto mechanic, right, or a carpenter. Like, listen, here's our tip as far as how to prevent save your brakes from wearing out so fast, right? And you write an article about it, right? And you share it on Facebook, and it's something that it's like, oh, it's kind of cool. Like, who wrote that? Oh, it's so and so's garage. Cool. And again, it's not one of these things where they might react, but if you give people enough value, enough information, next time they're thinking about servicing their car, there's a higher chance that they're going to go to you because they've already seen a lot of these things. So again, it works in any industry.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, section 2 is done.
Awesome. Next one.
Is your company optimized to rank on Google Maps? That's where people go for local searches.
You got it. Keep this section simple. You have to have a Google business page, right? You have to sign up for it, right? You have to log into it so you can make changes and things like that. You have to properly optimize, right, your listing. And again, we can provide that your little checklist there too for doing all those things. You also want to make sure that obviously your business is listed on all the different directories, right? There's a lot of them out there. Okay. And we have services that can help that. And there's other services out there too. But the whole idea is, again, we talked about links to your site. One of the quickest way to get high authority links to your site is by putting your information, the proper information about your business, email, phone, and things like that, and your website, pointing it back to your reviews, right?
We just talked about that.
We talked about reviews. If you don't have a strategy for getting reviews, get one, right? If you have very few reviews, reach out to old customers, get them back on there. Get reviews, right? And now, right, the new thing is too, Nicole, right, is which we're starting to incorporate with all our clients is posting on Google My Business as well, because they have their own little posting world and they now have their own little chat world. And again, they're trying to compete with some of these other platforms, but putting content on that, you putting content, and also your users putting content on that also helps with the Google optimization and ranking on maps and things like that.
I do have to say what I like when it comes to posting is you can link it back to your website. So when you're
Yep.
doing a Google business, like there's a call to action that you can send them
Got it.
to a landing page or to your website. It's not like I'm just posting content out there to post content. No, it's
Yeah.
driving traffic back to your website. So it's really good to, if you're not doing it, to start doing that.
And so many of us think that, oh, we got to spend all this money, but there's some very basic things. And you know what? I had the privilege of going out a couple years back to Bruce Clay, he's considered like the grandfather of SEO. And I went out there for 2 weeks in California, took this amazing course, right? And his whole thing that he said was, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than your competitor. And that's all what SEO is, right? You just have to be a little bit better than the next person, right? Because there's no perfect.
All right, moving on. Are you taking advantage of paid online marketing is the next section. And what that looks like is, are you running Google local service ads with a maxed out budget? Are you running retargeting ads to your unconverted leads?
So these local service ads that Google has, unfortunately, it's not available to everyone. So again, plumbers, things like that. So like if you're in the wedding industry, there's not any service ad as of right now, by the way. Google's always adding things. But what that does is just an easy way to run Google ads without having to go back into the interface and say, hey, I want to throw X amount of dollars in my local market, right? So when people are searching, you come up. And again, it's easy if you're a plumber, electrician. If you're not doing it, you should, right? So again, I would start there. Retargeting ads, same thing, right? If someone lands on your site, what happens is you want to, you want them to see your ad after they've been on your site. Because again, back in the day, they used to say it used to take like 7 or 8 touch points for people to kind of remember who you are. But with there's so much noise out there right now, meaning so many people, and everyone's getting bombarded from every different aspect from all these different companies out there, that now they're saying that it takes like 18 to 25 touches before people kind of remember who you might be, right?
That's
so
insane.
There's so much noise. There's so much noise. So what retargeting does is if again, I was searching, I went on your page, and now I'm not on your page, I'm in Google, and all of a sudden I see like our little display ad saying, hey, have your toilet repaired, or whatever the situation may be, or oh yeah, that's right, I was just there. Okay. Or if you're on social media, right, retargeting to people on social media, right? So it's just little reminders, right? But it has a lot of impact.
Awesome.
With that.
Yeah, it does. I know it's worked for me. I was on something, got interrupted by the little one, left it, and then I'm retargeted with an ad later. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. Next question is, are you running Google Ads?
Google Ads can be expensive, right? So it's one of those things where experimenting, again, right, you'll lose a lot of money because there's negative keywords. And as an example, like, you think, hey, I'm a plumber, I'm a carpenter. You don't want, if someone types in, give me all the bad carpenters in my area, if you don't negative keyword out something, you might come up for bad carpenter. So there's so much behind the scenes. If you're going to go into that, make sure that you do the research, get some help, before you kind of venture into that Google world.
It's not for beginners. They do not make it easy.
No, like I said, I tend to kind of use Facebook more because it's a little easier for people getting into this arena to do that. Again, Google's very effective, by the way, right? It's not that it's not effective. It's just that, I know people that have spent a lot of money and gotten no results. So just make sure before you get into that, reach out to somebody. If you guys need help, obviously, be more than happy to help out. But it's something to just be aware of. That's all.
Are you strategically targeting with specific ad groups, text ads, and landing pages?
Just be careful that the keywords that you are spending money on are keywords that are actually going to convert to business. As an example, if you're a lawyer, there are keywords that cost $10,000 to $15,000 per click on Google, right? The reason why they're that much money is because if you land one of those clients, it is millions upon millions of dollars, because usually, that keyword generates that kind of money. So that's a perfect example, and people don't mind paying that. So again, just make sure that you don't want to, if you're spending that kind of money, make sure that keyword's going to give you the results.
If you're paying for certain keywords, you want to make sure you're getting that return.
Yep.
Do you have a conversion tracking in place to track leads back to the ad group and keyword?
Yeah, again, making sure you're using the analytics, right? You don't want to fly blind, right? It's like this, right? So if you go bowling, right, and you throw the ball down the lane, and if someone put a cardboard and you can't see what score it is, right, you have no idea if you did good or bad, right? So by keeping score, by using some of these tools, all right, you know exactly what you did. All right, I got 5 pins down. I need 5 more to knock down. Same thing. These are the keywords that are working. These are the pages that are working. People are bouncing off this page. So again, free tools from Google.
Awesome. And we just did a video on this next question. Are you running targeted Facebook ads to your ideal prospect base? And we just had a little video about when is the right time to run ads? Should I, shouldn't I?
This all kind of goes on to, should I be online, marketing and things like that, right? So, if you do everything else right, you're going to get more leads. If you're trying to scale, right, your business, okay, or you're trying to get it restarted or whatever the situation may be, or you're trying to get a few more jobs, right, at the end of the year, you turn these things on, right? So, so Facebook, again, like we talked about, is a little easier to kind of get that.
It's easier to understand.
Yeah.
I know when I first initially started in, it's like you can figure out Facebook advertising a lot easier than you can the Google advertising without any kind of background knowledge about it. So when we say it's easier, we mean like it's easier for you to understand and run as a business who does it all and doesn't have the Google background knowledge or marketing knowledge. It's a little easier to understand and start to learn while you're doing all the other business tasks. And then our last question there is, do you have a premium listing? And in this case, I know for wedding marketers, it would be Wedding Wire, The Knot.
There's a lot of other Angie's. I mean, there's a bunch of them like that. Yeah. The more places you're out, the higher chance that you're going to obviously get work. It's nice being in control of your leads, right? Where, like, again, if you're doing Google, you're doing Facebook, you control what's going on. When you kind of rely on the other services, right? You're paying them $400 or $500 a month, and you get what you get. Now, again, I always say if you spend $6 and you at least break even, it's not a bad thing, right? At least you got your money back and you got some exposure. So it's again, if you only have X amount of dollars, make sure you take those X amount of dollars and apply it to where you're going to get the best return. That's all. So that's where I stand with Wedding Wire, Not, Angie's List, and any other, the Bark, and all these other things that are kind of out there.
Next section, which I love. Are you active on social media? We did a video on social media, but let's run through this a little bit. Do you have your business profile set up on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram? Let's add TikTok to that. What's the new one? Threads that just came out. If it's something that makes sense for your business, like is your audience there? Don't have to have it all.
Facebook, Instagram, right?
Where is your target audience and where are they most of the time is where you want to be, and make sure that that's where you're putting most of your time when you're doing your social media content. Are you getting engagement on Facebook and all of these platforms? Make sure that you're creating engaging posts, asking questions, trying to get people to communicate with you, talk with them. So are you getting engagement? And then are you updating your social profiles on a consistent basis?
What do we say, right? 2 to 3 times a week, right?
Yep.
It doesn't have to be crazy, but 3 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week is all you have to do.
All right, next section is, are you leveraging email and marketing automation? And I know we love our automation. I mean, when you are one person who does it all, automation is so important to take your business to the next level and scale. Let's check some of that off. Are you following up with your leads within 5 minutes or less via phone, SMS, and email?
Statistics will tell you those who respond in the first 5 minutes get 90% of the business. If you wait 10 to 15 minutes, I think it drops down to 50. If you wait an hour, your chances of getting that business is 20%.
If I'm looking for pricing, you can set up an automation that goes, hey, just sent you the pricing. And they're like, wow, this company is amazing with their communication and follow through. I like them. So definitely important to leverage that. Do you have conversion campaigns in place that follow up with unconverted leads 5 to 7 times via phone, SMS, email until they book their service, call, or estimate? And some people are like, oh my gosh, that's aggressive. But you're talking about converting a lead 5 to 7 times via phone or text or email until it converts or until you get a response is exactly what you want.
Absolutely. This is where so many companies fall flat on their face, right? Because I think what they forget, like, again, I'll just use my DJ company as an example, right? I'll get a lead at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? People are up at all weird times, right? Because they work different shifts. And, if you follow up with them and they get busy, like you talked about your kids screaming or something like that, right? Okay. I'm excited right now at this moment. I need to find information, and then life happens. That's what professional companies do, by the way, right? They follow up with their potential clients, their existing clients, right? So it's just good business practice. I would say probably 80%, 90% of businesses don't have a good follow-up system. So imagine if you did, how much more business that you would get. And again, we're not talking about anything complicated, right? You know what I mean? It's simple little things. And if you use a combination of email and text, it's a little less invasive, right? So, and people are okay with that, by the way. And you made it really easy to communicate, and you're following up with them.
Do you have a database with your customers' email addresses? I feel like it's common sense and so important, because if you're just using socials and they crash, like, you don't own that. You don't own that information. Those are your followers, but what information other than their like username do you have on that platform?
I think what people forget, it costs so much time, money in some cases, right, to grab a new client, right? It's one of the most, it's the most expensive form of acquisition, of getting a new client, right? So once you have them in your database, again, follow up with them, right? Cool little things that you're doing, little tips and things like that, because you get a lot of return business. Isn't it the easiest client to sell, the one that you already did something for, right? Because they already know you, they trust you, they know that, right? Absolutely. So have some kind of database or something. I know people use Excel spreadsheets and things like that, but there are so many other tools now that make it so much easier.
So much easier.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? To send emails and send texting and things like that. So.
You were just touching on too with their emails, like sending a newsletter, following up. It's just to stay top of mind is really helpful.
That's it. And sometimes you think that you're annoying people. You're not. When they're ready to buy, they'll buy. Right. And that's the thing. Like, they're not going to delete your email. Some do, by the way. Right. But
that's
not
okay.
Delete. If you did really good work for me, and I get one of these things every month, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Oh, that's really, really nice. It just stays in the back of my mind.
Yeah, and the last part of that is leveraging email to get online reviews and draw customers to your social media profiles. So in your email, having like, follow me on socials, stay up to date with everything, and then getting those online reviews, because we know already how important that is.
So I think some people take for granted their email signature, right? Just having a name. I mean, that's a lost opportunity there. It's magic when you have some of these basic things kind of working, because it just makes life so much easier.
And we have arrived at our final section. Do you have tracking in place to gauge your ROI? That looks like Google Analytics, keyword ranking, tracking, call tracking.
Because again, you don't want to fly blind, right? You want to make sure that your efforts are actually, being put to full potential. You also don't want to be working on the wrong things.
Action items. If you haven't downloaded the checklist, download the checklist.
That would be number one. Absolutely. Start there.
So this way you have it on hand and you can kind of go through and check. If anything's unfamiliar, you're not sure what it means, come back and watch this video.
Don't start with the big things. Start with all the little things. And I think that's what this checklist does for you. It gives you like all these little steps that you just kind of chuck away. If you want to schedule a free consult, by all means, you'll be more than happy to talk about. We will look at your site. We'll give you guys some free tips, right? We want to help out.
Feel free to comment, like, subscribe. If you have a question, let us know.